So go ahead and open up the cturtle.psd file, and we're going to start taking a look at one of the most important features inside of Adobe Photoshop, and that is layer masks. This might be one of the most underutilized features by new people to the Adobe Photoshop world, and I think it's one of those features that seems a little bit intimidating at first, but when you start playing around with them, you'll realize how easy they are to work with and what a great useful tool they are. So let's go ahead and get started. Now with this file already open, I'm going to go ahead and open up another file that we'll start with just from a blank standpoint. I'm going to go to File, New, and here are my options. I'm going to go ahead and just call this CTurtle mask. Well, let's keep it simple. Let's keep the name the same. That way there'll be no confusion. We'll call it CTurtle. All right. So with the CTurtle file, I'm going to go ahead and create this with an 8 by 8 size in inches. Okay. The resolution we'll keep at 72 because we're dealing with a low resolution file here. 8-bit color RGB white background is important. Let's go ahead and make that. Alright, now with my new CTurtle file, I'm going to go ahead and import the other one. So let's take this file here, which is now nested together. You see I can click back and forth with the Cs6 interface. If you have an older version of Photoshop, it won't nest in quite this way. It'll already be separate, most likely. But just to show you, this nesting is nothing to worry about. All you do is just click down to separate, and then it will separate into a separate window. If you ever want to go back, you click up, wait for the highlight, let go. There you go. Okay. Well, let me get back to that now. So I will go ahead and separate this and this one. All right, now I've got two separate windows floating around. Here in our floating windows, we can go back and forth between these two by clicking. Let's go to the CTurtle, and I'm going to grab the layer of the CTurtle and just simply drag it over into my blank CTurtle file so it looks like this. Alright, so this is how easy it is to share back and forth. Now, if you ever want to go back to the nesting, just click up and wait till you see the highlighted blue there, let go, and now you're back in business. So you can see what happened. I was able to drag my layer from the CTurtle file into my new CTurtle file, the white one, and I no longer need that original file anymore. It's just going to float on top of that white background that we created. Okay, let's take the Move tool, and I'm selecting layer 1, and I'm just going to move this around so you can see it's just floating up there. Now, let's have some fun with layer masks. What I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. I'm at 100% viewing angle so you can see this better. And I'm going to add a layer mask down here. These are my layer options at the bottom. And let's go ahead and just choose the layer mask option here, which looks like this little white circle in the dark gray flag sort of thing. Click on that and you'll get what's called as a layer mask over here. Now, I'm zoomed in so you can see this nice and easily, so it may be a little difficult because I'm cutting off some of the lettering. Let me just move this over, separate this, and expand this a little bit so you can see this better as I go. There we go. Hopefully now you can see that better. Alright, so I've still got layer 1 over here. I'll go ahead and just rename this CTurtle. Okay, now I'm ready to have some fun non-destructively with layer masks. So obviously I've got a straight edge border here, a rectangular border, and layer masks give you the option of creating all kinds of different kind of photo borders for blending one photo into a background or one photo in with another photo. So if I, for example, were to take my marquees up here, my rectangular marquee or my elliptical marquee, I can start creating shapes on my layer mask that will affect the border of my CTurtle. So for example, here I've got the rectangular marquee. I'll just draw a rectangle inside of that CTurtle file. So I'm on the CTurtle layer. Now here's a real important step. I want to make sure that I come over here to the layer mask. Okay, that's what this white box represents. When I hit this button down here, this is what it created, was this layer mask on top of the photo layer. So what does a layer mask do? You're about to see. So if I were to take this rectangular area now and fill that with a color, it's going to render something in black and white on the layer mask and hide or show what is on this layer. So for example, if I go to Edit Fill, and I'm going to fill this with black so you can see, it just made that sea turtle disappear, and you can see what it did over here on my layer mask. It created a black rectangle. So this is how layer masks work. Anything that is represented in black on the mask will render something invisible on that layer. Anything that is white will reveal whatever is on the layer. So let me just go to Select, Deselect to get rid of the rectangular marquee. Now you can see this better. So I can see here the black area on the layer mask represents a hole here that goes into the white background. So if you're not quite sure what's happening still, maybe the white background's kind of confusing, let me just make this a little more obvious. So I'll select my background layer. I'm going to double click it to get rid of the lock, to unlock it. I'll just call this background. There it is. Now I'm just going to take my paintbrush and I'm going to choose for my color down here in the bottom of the palette. I'll choose a color that's unmistakable, like red. And I'll just paint on this background layer a red line all the way through. Okay, so now you can see what's going on, and now hopefully there's no mistake in what's happening. This black rectangle is cutting a hole into this photo so you can see the layer below. So let's go to this layer mask and let's try flipping it inside out. Let's take the black and put it where the white is and vice versa. So now I'm going to go to the edit menu, and actually, excuse me, this is under image, and let's go to adjustments, invert. And what this will do is we'll flip the black areas with the white areas by inverting it. So I'm going to go to invert. Now you can see the layer mask is inside out. Now I've got the white where the black was and the black where the white was. Alright, now obviously that's had an effect on my image, and I can see now that the sea turtle is visible and the white background is only on the edges. So this hopefully demonstrates exactly what a layer mask does. It basically is just a way that you can control the visibility of a particular layer. So I'm going to go to filter this, filter blur, Gaussian blur. So any filter that I apply to this layer will have an impact on the shape. So as I blur the layer, you're seeing a vignetting effect happen on the photo. So I'm blurring this rectangle over here. You can see the results. Let me zoom out so you can see exactly what's going on. There we go. As you can see, as I blur this, I'm creating a soft edge for my photograph. That one looks pretty good, so I'll just go like with a 9 pixel radius. There, I've got a nice soft edge for my photograph. If I take the move tool and I move around, I'm going to click over here. Notice I can select back and forth between the layer mask and the image. If I click over here and I move it, you can see the layer mask travels with the sea turtle. There it goes. Now, if I unlink it, separate the layer mask from the photo, now I can move the layer mask separately from the photograph. So here's what happens. Again, check to see what you're selecting. You can see the outline here. It tells me what I'm selecting. I can move this around. You can see now this frame is moving over here, and that allows me to readjust the frame if I want to on the photograph. So I can recompose the photograph however I choose. Alright, so hopefully now you understand what's happening, the relationship between the layer mask and the image on the layer that the layer mask resides on. So now that you understand that, let's go ahead and let's see what we can do with some of these edges. First off, let's talk about using a paintbrush. If I take a paintbrush over here and I'm just going to paint with some shade of gray, going anywhere from black to white to gray, and I'm going to choose a paintbrush from my menu up here. You see there's lots in Cs6. We have a lot of different choices. Now in any version of Photoshop you'll have brush choices. They may look different than mine depending on what version you're using, but you can adjust the size, the hardness, and you can even load more brushes to your menu. So I'm going to go ahead and just pick this little top option up here, and you can see all these different categories of brushes that are available. So if you want to add up more, you can. I'm going to leave it as is. I don't really need any more brushes, but there are different categories that you can load up depending on your version of Photoshop. Let's say grab one of these rustic brushes here. There's like an oil, medium, wet flow. It doesn't really matter. You can use any of these kind of dappled, kind of rough edge brushes to try this out. And as I come over here to my layer mask, I'm going to paint directly on it. Excuse me here, I'm just going to close this out. And if I click and drag, you can see I'm actually painting now an edge to this layer mask. And just so you can see this better, I'm going to option click, and that's what the layer mask looks like. So I'm actually painting the mask itself to create a new edge. And again, if you want to try this yourself, you can option or alt click your layer mask, and then to get it back, option or alt click the layer mask again. There we go. Now I'm doing this on a Macintosh, so if you're on a PC and that doesn't work for you, try one of the other adjustment keys. But hopefully you're able to see that. So there, now I've got a kind of a rustic edge to my photograph. Handmade, hand painted. Now of course I've been painting black. That's my color here. But if I were to choose like a lighter color, like a medium gray, and paint that, you can see it's semi-transparent. So some of the photo bleeds through, some of it you can see it's a lot lighter, hazier, but it's a semi-transparent effect now that I've got gray, and this is what it looks like on my mask. Okay, so it's kind of fun to play with. There's a lot of things obviously you can do with this, because pretty much anything you can imagine in black and white over here can become a mask. Let's try one more process and then I'll put an end to this. So we're going to select the layer mask, we're going to go to filter, and we're going to go to filter gallery. Now with this, I'm able to change the shape of my layer mask, and there's a fun interactive environment here that I can click on, and I can choose all kinds of different pre-built filters, distortions, and you can just experiment with this and have fun with it. You can stack layers upon layers of these filters if you want, but I want to keep it simple. I don't want to go crazy with this, but just to give you a sense of some of the things that can be done to the mask. Click on it, filter, filter gallery, and then just start playing with it and see what comes out of it. Try different things. Here's patchwork, for example. You can adjust the size if you want, and you can get the the details exactly the way you'd like it, the relief amount. Click OK, and there you can see what patchwork does to the layer mask. Okay, here's what it looks like. Here's the result. And if you don't like that, go ahead and undo it. Try another. Oops, my bad. Filter, filter gallery. Don't choose the top option because that just reapplies the same filter you just did. You go to filter, filter gallery to go back to that environment, and you can find new fun filters to play with. Let's go to sketch maybe and try water paper, for example, or note paper. Let's see what that does. Oh, there's the note paper effect. Nothing outstanding. Glass. Let's try glass. I'm not even going to mess with this over here. Just click OK. Oh, there's my glass edge to it. So hopefully that gives you some sense of what's going on with layer masks. It's pretty simple when you think about it, but don't be intimidated by it. Just realize that layer masks are nothing more than an area that enhances your existing photograph non-destructively. The photograph is not affected in any way. In fact, if you want to disable the layer mask, you can do that as well. You can go and right click it with your mouse or control click it with your keyboard. Again, I'm on a Mac, so just be aware of that. Disable layer mask is the first option, and I'm back to where it was. If I want it, you see a big red X through it now, but if I want to bring it back, I can just choose enable layer mask. You notice in this contextual menu while I'm here, again, I'm just using control click on the Mac or right click with the mouse. There's a lot of other options too. I can delete the layer mask. I can apply it permanently, which is a destructive process, so be careful if you decide to do that. There's all sorts of things that you can do. There's mask options, there's interactions that you can make with other selections. But say for example, this refine mask option allows you to do a lot of things just with simple adjustments. You can smooth it out, you can feather it. I'm not going to get too deep into this because a lot of it's just repetition of what we've already done, but if you were to just want to do simple quick adjustments, this is a place where you could do it. So you can simply take the size of the mask that you have, adjust that. You can smooth it out, feather it, add more contrast to it, and you can see in real time what you're doing over there. So that's kind of interesting, but at the same time it's not really a must-use kind of feature. As long as you understand what they do, just understand that masks really can be enhanced by any of the standard features and tools in Photoshop that you're used to using. And as you go forward and use masks more and more in your workflow, you'll find all sorts of different ways that you can edit them and take advantage of them. So just keep them in mind, and I hope that you're seeing the potential here and that you'll really want to use masks more and more as you go into Photoshop and you look at your first creative projects, your CD cover, and think about ways you can use the layer mask creatively. So to finish this up, before we save it out, I'm going to get rid of this red line that looks kind of ugly. So to do that, I'm going to select the background layer again, go to Edit Fill, and just fill it with white. So make that a solid white background, and there's my layer up here, the sea turtle layer with the layer mask applied. Now yours may not look exactly like mine. I don't expect it to because I was using paintbrushes and the like, but just turn in the final results that you've achieved with your layer mask using the filter gallery, and save that to be turned in as the sea turtle file. And that's it. We'll see you on the next lesson.